We are following developing news this hour. The province's police watchdog is investigating after a suspect was shot by an officer in North York. It happened this afternoon after two people were stabbed near Jane and Shoreham Drive. And that's where we find CP24's Beatrice Vaisman with the latest on this investigation. Beatrice.
All right, we'll hear from the president of the Toronto Police Association, Clayton Campbell, in just a moment. But let me bring our viewers up to speed with what actually happened here. It was just before 3:30 this afternoon. The first 911 calls went out. Police putting out on social media. They responded to a call for a person with a knife. So that was the initial call. That was the information that police had when they first arrived at the scene. They say they found this man who police allege stabbed two people. And then there was an interaction between officers and this man. Now, we've been to the round to the back of the townhouse complex where it seems like this interaction with investigators happened. And I can tell you there's a pretty large, what looks like almost a butcher's knife, long blade, orange or red handle on the ground directly in front of one of the units, Arda. Several evidence markers as well. And as we speak, the SIU just starting their investigation here at the scene. And we watched as the person here from the SIU who's going to be conducting this investigation was looking for shell casings that came from the police firearm. We know that at least one officer discharged their gun, shooting the person that police suspect stabbed two people. He was rushed to hospital with serious, possibly life-threatening injuries. The two stabbing victims, according to what paramedics tell CP24, a man who was stabbed in hospital with serious, possibly life-threatening injuries, and a woman suffering from serious but non-life-threatening injuries. Two officers also taken to hospital with minor injuries. So for more on this, I want to bring in the Toronto Police Association spokesperson, Clayton Campbell. Clayton, thanks for making time. Firstly, how are your two officers doing? Are they still in hospital tonight?
Yeah, they're doing okay. They're going to be heading home soon. And as you can imagine, the last thing one of our officers want to do is use force, potentially at least lethal force in a situation like this. So our responsibility is to come out, make sure they're doing okay. Very difficult scene. Some information out there, person with a knife, people stabbed, officers injured. But thank goodness our officers are okay tonight.
I appreciate there's an SIU investigation now, and there's kind of a cone of silence that happens when they invoke their mandate. But can you talk about, anything in terms of the interaction between officers and this person where the officers stabbed, or how do they sustain their injuries?
Yeah, the service has put out some information where there's a person with a knife call, two people injured. Our officers have had some minor cuts, I can tell you that. I'm not sure the extent of those injuries, and then they had to use force. And when you take a look at the totality of the scene, someone there, something going on, knives used, some violence, and they had to use force. We'll look forward to that information coming out, but thank goodness our officers are okay tonight.
What process happens when an officer determines what kind of force they should be used? Because here you've got a knife. Officers respond with, lethal force, potentially lethal force, a gun. What goes into deciding when an officer should discharge their gun or not, and what training goes into that?
There is lots of training, especially around de-escalation. That's always the focus of our officers. Like I said, they don't want to use their firearm, but when a situation presents itself, either they're going to be seriously harmed or killed, another police officer or a member of the service is going to be seriously harmed or killed, or a member of the public, that's when they're going to discharge their firearm. But again, it's as a last resort. There's always other use of force options, tasers and pepper spray and that sort of stuff. So it's a last resort when they have to use their firearm.
If any tasers, pepper spray were deployed in this particular incident?
Yeah, I don't have any of that information. But again, like I said, to the public, the SIU is an independent body. They have their own forensic investigators, their own investigation. And I always have to reiterate this. The trauma our members suffer when they have to discharge their firearm is going to live with them for the rest of their lives, and we want to support them through that whole process.
I guess what kind of supports go into that, Clayton, once an officer discharges? There's many officers who go their entire career never having to discharge their gun, thankfully. But what kind of supports are made available to officers? Yeah,
aside from the investigation, some of the legal supports, we offer psychological support. I can tell you it's a huge change in my 25 years that actually most officers come on with their own psychologists, so it's not a abnormal thing. The stigma's gone a bit, so we make sure they're set up to talk to somebody to deal with some of the trauma they feel going through this incident.
When you talk about the service, obviously there's a lot of young constables out there now. Can you talk about the experience of the officers involved here from, these 31 division officers? Are they new recruits or are they veterans on the service?
Yeah, they're all young officers that are out there answering radio calls. In our primary response unit, that's the people in the police cars you're seeing answer the radio calls, they're all young. I was just at the Ontario Police College where they graduated 500 officers from across the service, and 30% of those officers were between 19 and 22 years of age. So it's a very young service out there. They're doing their best, and they're running towards danger, trying to save people's lives when we were all sleeping at home. So I'm so proud of them. This is an unfortunate incident, but they're brave, and they do the best they can each and every day keeping the city safe.
Well, you mentioned they suffered some pretty minor cuts. Was this at the hands of the suspect, as far as you know? Or?
Yeah, I don't know. But again, obviously, someone with a knife stabbing, it wouldn't be surprising to say it come from that knife. But we'll have to see as the reports out there.
Clayton Campbell, thanks so much for your time tonight.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. So the investigation really just in its infancy here, Arda. The SIU vehicle parked right behind me now. One of their investigators are now here at the scene. It'll be up to the SIU to determine that Toronto Police Service and these officers who responded to this call this afternoon followed all of the procedures when it comes to their interaction with this man who, as far as we know, still remains in hospital tonight, Arda, suffering from serious, possibly life-threatening injuries after being shot here at Jane and Shoreham. Arda.
Beatrice, thank you so much for this.